You want to build a sportswear business from the back of a van, and let's face it, who doesn't? You could do far worse than listening to Tom Hunter. I sat down with him a couple of years ago to hear how he created an empire and built an amazing team. Started at 23 years old with £10,000. You had one customer, so I guess you had to source the shoes and then start building your business.
Well, the thing about trainers in those days was that it was Adidas, it was Nike, it was Puma, Reebok, but none of these guys wanted to supply me because I was selling them in a fashion environment, and at that time they were saying, no, we're not fashion, we're in this athletic sports business. And I remember having these arguments saying to Reebok, well, if you're only in the athletic sports business, why have you got a banana yellow high top? You're in the fashion business, guys, but they wouldn't have it. I remember it was cottage industry in those days, and it used to be the retired footballer got the sports shop in a town and he was protected. And here I was coming in disrupting it. So for a long time, they wouldn't supply me. So I had to buy my shoes wherever I could, you know.
And where were you buying the shoes?
So I was buying them from wholesalers in the north of England, or really anywhere that I could. And I was lucky at that time that we just caught a wave that trainers or sneakers were, you know, on the rise. So.
And when did you decide to make the move from selling shoes to other people's stores to having your own store?
Well, once I could afford it, which took 5 years, James.
5 years?
5 years, you know, the people say, oh, goodness, you know, overnight success, you know. So it took 5 years to afford my first shop, which was no bigger than this room, 300 square feet in Paisley in Scotland.
And when did that first shop open?
1989.
And the first one was called Sports Division?
It was called Shoe Division.
Shoe Division.
Because at that point we only did shoes, we only did trainers.
And then from that one shop, when did the second one
Yes, so you know the progression was pretty rapid then, and suppliers were beginning to say, right, you've got your own shop, so they would supply me direct, which was a big thing. And then this phenomenon called the shell suit came along. And always when I'm speaking in front of an audience, I would say, hands up those who've got a shell suit. And nobody puts their hands up. And I said, well, somebody must have bought them because I was selling 6 million of them a year.
In Scotland?
Europe,
okay.
And yeah, I remember being at a trade show where we're still only selling shoes, and somebody said, Tom, have you saw these shell suits? And I said, what's a shell suit? And they said, look, come in this place, look, this is it. And I went, that's it? And they went, yeah. And from that, we began to sell shell suits. And as I say, we became the biggest seller in Europe of shell suits.
And to anyone who's maybe under the age of 20 and kind of missed this phenomenon, how would you describe a shell suit?
Well, they're coming back. So it's like a shiny fabric that's totally flammable.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, like a tracksuit except shiny.
So you went from one store. What did you get to organically before you did the big acquisition that we'll speak about in a moment?
So we got through, and then I went to America and I saw the advent of a superstore, which was these out of town. Obviously in America it was huge, but in Britain it wasn't. Out of town superstores, and they were selling all sorts. So we came back to the UK and opened the first kind of sports superstore out of town, selling all sorts of stuff, golf clubs, bikes, fitness. And so we'd got them, but that was by 1995. So.
And where was the first superstore that you opened?
First superstore was in Teesside Retail Park in the northeast of England. And yeah, phenomenal. And but we were really hungry to grow, but we were about the 7th biggest in the UK. And but we were making about £4 million a year, and we were really had a brilliant team of people, and we were hungry for more. And that's when Olympus came up, because they were the biggest in the UK, but they were losing about £14 million a year. And I thought, how I'd love to take them on. And so we went down and met. They were part of a conglomerate called Sears. And basically they treated me with contempt and said, "Oh son, look, you go back to Scotland. You know, we're number one." That's actually when I contacted Philip Green of all people, and Philip at that time, you know, he had the chutzpah to go and get Sears, and he set it up, but he didn't have any money, so I had to go and borrow and put my house on the line. So we then became the owners of Olympus.